Hi everyone, this is Alan McKay. Welcome to episode 58. I'm talking with Omar Garcia from Dreamworks Animation in Los Angeles. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Alan McKay Podcast. Alan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Alan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Alan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on alanmckay.com.
Okay, so welcome to a new episode. I'm really excited to be talking with Omar Garcia. He's a really talented character technical director from Dreamworks Animation in Los Angeles, and he's also worked for Dreamworks in San Francisco as well, in Redwood. And I thought it'd be really fun to talk with Omar because he's had a really interesting career, and just kind of like watching him from initially starting out and coming from more of a student background. I thought this would be kind of cool to kind of talk about his experiences and watching as he's kind of grown up into working at some really cool studios, doing some really amazing work. Some of the projects he's worked on are things like Puss in Boots, Kung Fu Panda 2, I think he just finished number 3, or maybe I imagined that. But like How to Train Your Dragon 2, which I saw, it was really cool. The Croods, which I haven't seen. We actually worked together on Priest, which is where I met him, which I believe was his first real kind of big gig. And that was really fun. He's a really cool, really genuine guy, and just kind of fun to hang out with. And yeah, I thought this would be kind of interesting, and also just because like he's able to share a lot of really cool stories, which I'm hoping are going to resonate a lot with a lot of people who are either students right now or just recently graduated, and maybe are kind of going through that initial point where, you know, you're trying, you're putting in the hard yards, but maybe not initially getting results. And this is a perfect case study of exactly where, you know, not giving up, pushing hard, and kind of staying persistent, and how it can pay off in the long run. And, you know, I think that's really important for all of us to remind ourselves about. So I'm going to keep this intro pretty short for once, I guess. But yeah, it's basically the beginning of my year has been insanely busy. And actually this weekend has been really fun because I've managed to catch up with a lot of my friends who are all in town for the VES, or Visual Effects Society Awards. So, you know, I was really excited about like this weekend, all this work I wanted to get done. And out of nowhere, like yesterday I spent 7 hours on the phone talking about a lot of business stuff, and then suddenly it's nighttime. I hadn't eaten like 35 hours, and end up having beers with friends. They're all in town for that, and then getting texts to go out in the morning for breakfast with a few more as well, and going out again tonight. So it's just been this like massive blur of a weekend where I'm trying to scramble to get everything together in this pretty jam-packed amount of time. But I'm really excited for the VES award. It's going to be really exciting to see a lot of the really massive projects that are up this year, from The Walk with Atomic Fiction, which, yeah, those guys are killing it at the moment. So really hope that Kevin and Ryan both kick butt with that. And Chris Harvey I was at breakfast with this morning. He's up for doing all the VFX soup work for Chappie, which again is really amazing. There's so many cool projects this year, so I'm really excited. I was going to go this year, but again, it's just been so crazy. I might buy a ticket last minute. They hold the award ceremony down in Beverly Hills, which is just down the street, so I'm kind of like trying to figure out whether or not I want to spend my Tuesday night doing that. And I've got some really cool announcements coming up, but I will save them for the next episode. In the meantime, let's get in there and hear the talk with Omar Garcia. For the first day of my life, I've actually gotten to like not sleep in, but just have an early kind of fuck it, I'm gonna watch TV and do nothing morning.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, especially with you, I feel like you always have something to do. You don't have like an hour to yourself.
I do. It's usually like 11, but yeah, it's been pretty nuts. I'm kind of liking it. At least I feel like when how do I word it? I feel like, yeah, I am pretty busy these days, but at least I can look back and be like, fuck, at least I'm kind of, my time's going to the things that I want to be applying them to. So
Sure. Yeah.
cool, man. So how's everything been going anyway? Like, tell me what's been going on.
Yeah. No, everything's going great. I'm on I don't know how much you are involved with animation, but we released a trailer for Trolls recently. But the thing is that it's a good movie. It's actually a great movie. I actually loved working on the troll faces. I got to rig one of the main
Mhm.
characters' grandfather, which was a lot of fun.
When's that coming out anyway, like Trolls?
I believe in November of this year.
Wow. Okay. So how long have you been working on that?
I actually finished last year,
Okay.
so I'm on another project which is going to be super awesome. It's going to be released. Actually, it's in your neck of the woods, and it's based off of Australia. No, it's called the Larrikins.
Larrikins. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Is that
yeah.
announced yet?
It is announced. It's
Okay.
on IMDb. That's why I can say it. But
Yeah.
yeah. If you ever come by the city, I can show you the artwork because it has so many like compelling characters. It's pretty amazing.
Cool. Yeah, and I definitely will because Andrew Schmidt, who I mentioned, he's been telling me I should swing by sometime. Like I've driven past the DreamWorks building so many times because you see it from
Hmm.
the freeway, but
Hmm.
yeah, never. It's probably like the one studio. Actually, I've been to DreamWorks in Redwood, like the
Yeah. Thanks
old
for telling
PDI.
me about that.
I get so many people got pissed at me, when because like it was on the way. I had a dinner reservation at like a really expensive restaurant in San Fran, and we're
Hmm.
driving from LA, and it was Friday night, so you can imagine the traffic. And
Oh yeah.
I stopped by DreamWorks, but I just didn't have time to organize it, and I popped in there, and Crystal Dynamics is across the street, who
Hmm.
do what is it, Tomb Raider and all that.
Hmm.
And like between those two buildings, like the amount of like angry people I got, like being like, "Dude, what the fuck? You're in my building and you didn't tell me," or "You're across the street, like you don't have time to see me." Yeah, it's just like I ran in there and basically, was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then ran out to go to San Fran and got stuck in traffic the whole way there.
Oh
So
yeah. I hate that now.
yeah,
Yep. So for me, I don't even need to go on the freeway. I just drive 5 minutes.
let's talk a bit about how you started out. You were at Expression, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I went to Expression.
That's cool. And I guess I'm just kind of curious, like, what kind of really drew you to character rigging? Just for, like, let's say for anyone who's like, what's character rigging, and they're exactly where you were in that position. What would you say that's kind of like
Well,
what makes you so passionate about it?
Well, for me, it's like character rigging just kind of has 50-50 for technical and artistic skills.
Hmm.
Because you have to be able to, build the controls and make stuff move, and from there you have to be very creative technically. You have to create solutions, like how programmers would say, build algorithms to do something faster. So, like if there's an arm that you want to move in a certain way, you have the ability to either do the standard way or you can kind of come up and be creative on your own. So I really like that part. At the same time, I was still forced to learn anatomy, deformation, and how things moved. And when I was a kid, I would always watch, Discovery Channel and um, watch, how scientists were, showing how an alligator would move or how humans would move.
That's cool.
And from there, it's like, oh, so it's like, I can see why we move our arm a certain way, why our muscles push and pull, and how things move, not only in humans but in creatures. It's just amazing, and they're like also it's just like then you once you find that kind of energy, like motivation, then you start looking at other things like um, robotics or even movies from like ILM, like Transformers, like how did they make that transform. It just kind of it clicks everywhere, and that's where my motivation came from. It's like I was really curious as to figure things out. Like I think the hardest rig I've ever done when I was in school was actually rigging a piece of paper. And as easy as you may think that is, it's actually one of the most challenging things I've ever done, because you
Yep.
have to make it fold, you have to make it move, you have to make it look like a piece of paper still, and it actually was very, very challenging. So, and you won't even think like, you still have to rig a pencil, or you have to rig a paperclip, or um, you have to rig like some inorganic things that you still takes a lot of knowledge to do. So it's a never-ending cycle of learning on how to do something.
Yep. It's usually the simplest of things that are actually the trickiest too. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that kind of comes up to what you were talking about, school and how much do they encourage you and all that. I mean, yeah, to me, yeah, I would probably say that going to school, the school that I chose, I will never regret going to that school. But what I did find out early on was is that the school will say something like, we'll like for me, they told me, hey, join our school and we'll give you a tour of Pixar. And I'm not gonna lie, that kind of drew me during that time. because I
Join
was
our
really
school.
like,
We'll pay $40,000. We'll give you $100 right
yeah,
now.
exactly.
Here's the deal. It's right in your hand. Take it.
No, and it was for me. I was like, I was still barely, I didn't know truly what I was getting myself into, but I really wanted to go visit Pixar because I was a big fan of all the movies,
Yep.
and it's like it was a real, catch, I guess. And but once I realized that by the time I got to the program to where they started taking people, they actually stopped doing that, and
Whoa, really?
yeah, and it kind of made me upset, but not real, it didn't really bring me down because I thought to myself, you know what, I shouldn't, and this is just me. I don't know how my other, friends or classmates felt, but to me, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go on there on my own. I'm gonna figure out a way to get there, and I'll go visit.
Hmm.
And so I just ended up like just showing the school that I was going to do my way. And I was, if you guys are going to teach me, I'll learn and then I'll just keep learning from there on out.
You could have touched base on this already, but like, what do you think are some of the benefits of knowing some scripting or coding, as well as being an artist? Whether you're a rigger or whether you're in any areas of 3D,
You
especially
know,
as a TD.
yeah, as much as I try to avoid it, I really did not want to learn scripting. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not a programmer. I just want to do rigging. I want to do the technical artistic side, but inside the computer by myself, by hand. But the more I did that, the sooner the faster I realized, hey, all this stuff that I just did that took me 8 hours, I could probably do it with one click of a button.
Hmm.
And then
Or rather than do it like 100 times, do it once. And
exactly, yeah, exactly. So, and one of my earlier mentors, who went to Expression too, his name is Chad Vernon, really successful, really on top of his A game, still is, and he's a great rigger. He was the one that kept telling me, you know what, man, if you want to be a successful rigger, you have to learn scripting. It's bottom line. And I like those type of mentors that just tell me upfront what I need to learn. I don't like this, you know, cautious of being too careful about their feelings and whatnot. No, I want to know exactly what I need to know in order to get a job. I don't need no one's protection. Just tell me bluntly, do I suck? Do I not suck? Um, and he told me learn scripting. That's what you need to do. And so I started taking this online course for Python. And my teacher, it was a cinematics artist at Blizzard, and he I was not getting it, but he saw my determination to learning, and he would not give up on me. He just kept, giving me examples and teaching me and correcting me, and I kid you not, man. Till this day, anyone that I see that wants to get into 3D graphics or animation or even VFX on whatever level that they want to be in, or texture and lighting or whatever, I always tell them you got to learn scripting. It will save your life. Because the moment I actually finished that course, that's when I landed that job at Spy Post.
cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And yeah, I definitely do think that you know, having that mentality is really beneficial. And I know so many people who are character animators and they know a little bit of scripting, and it just means that it makes their life so much easier. And I think there's just like a lot of negative connotations that come with it.
Mm,
More to do with, a lot of people either like I've I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and usually the responses are that the only time they would ever need scripting is when they don't, when they really need to get something done and then they don't have time to do it. And for me, I think of all the situations where it's like we need to have like literally hundreds of things replaced and all these things done within like 3 hours. And I'm like,
mm,
okay, there's no way I could do that by hand, but 15 minutes of scripting and it's done. And it's always those situations where scripting actually can save your butt. It's not about like, I need to sit down for a week and write code. It's like, no, I can, do all this. And then that one bit there, I'll, quickly write up a few lines and let that loop through. And here, I'm just going to make it pass all this info and whatever. It definitely speeds things up. The big thing I think that stops everyone is that a lot of the training out there, and I think this is changing now. I haven't really paid much attention, but I know there's so many great like resources coming up online. But usually, most of the material out there is built for people who went to school and learned science, learned math, and they get all this and it's wired for them. But if you're an artist and you're like, okay, I never went to school, never did any of this stuff, what the fuck is that symbol on the screen? That is just so intimidating because it's just like, well, where do I begin? Like, and then you try to begin and it just throws you off. And I think it's just if you find the right people or the right material that instead of approaching it that way, it could be, okay, like one of the best analogies I give, like one of the things in my mentorship that I teach is let's go and initially build a really detailed rock and texture it and do all this stuff, like, shape it. And then what we'll do is keep it there on the screen, but we're going to recreate every step we just did with a script. And so it's like, let's make a sphere, let's do displacement, let's call these things. Once we build it identically, exactly the same with code, and it takes like a few minutes, it's like, okay, now let's just randomize all these parameters we had. So that way, each time you generate a rock, it's going to give you a different one. Then from there, let's go a step further, make it an asteroid belt, and then make it animate, and then within, 50 minutes, you've got a tool that you can generate like an animated asteroid field where everything's all sculpted exactly how you would by hand as an artist. And we go through the exact same process, but most people initially, rather than going that route, it's like, well, let's dive in the deep end and work out on equations and everything else. So I think it's just more about, making it approachable for artists, like try and find a way to connect the dots,
When I lived back up north, I used to do a lot of seminars or lectures on, like, one-day lectures on introduction to Python. And I try to do it in a way that, I'm doing it so that the students know how to use it outside of a 3D program, and then they can understand it inside a 3D program. Because that way that, they have something to connect to. It's just like how you were saying that, like I would build like one tree, and then let's build a forest, and then, build a controller, and then not having to build that controller again. You just have to click a button, and then, your controller shows up.
Yep.
It's just that I think people are just generally scared of the term programming because they just don't, they feel like it's too hard to understand. But reality is, it's just, especially with Python, it is very, very simple. You just have to kind of, like, for me, I didn't really understand Python fully. Even today, I still don't understand Python fully. I'm still learning every day. But I would probably say after a year of actually starting to learn scripting, I finally was comfortable enough to start writing scripts on my, like, full on pipeline scripts on my own. And that's only because when I started learning, I started poking at a lot of people for information, like my teacher at Blizzard, and then one of my good buddies, him, Jesse Capper. He was he still is. He's an amazing programmer, and I would bug him a lot. And what I liked about him was that I would ask him a question, and then he would ask me, "So what have you tried to do so far?" And then he would try to help me figure out my issues of what I've tried so far before he would actually tell me what it was.
Yep.
So this is like the tough love, come on, you can do it, like trying to push me to learn it first before getting the answers right off the bat.
Yeah, and he's definitely wired more as a programmer. Like I remember on Priest, he never used MaxScript before, and literally just within an hour he's scripting away, doing what he did, and it wasn't a big deal for him. So I mean, yeah, he's a smart dude, and that's just it. Like having a good support team, and that's with anything, like even like I'm trying to get back into the gym and everything after like basically I screwed my spine up about 3 years ago, and it just derailed everything. And so now I'm like, all right, enough's enough, time to get back in. And it's just funny because you can have some people around you that, let's say if you wanted to, you could be like, okay, this is my problem where I screwed up my spine. I was doing nothing but like deadlifts and squats. And, then one day it's just like everything goes to shit. And, but, you could have the wrong people around you kind of giving you misinformation or just complicating everything that you're doing. Or you could find the right people who are like really good, leaders are going to give you the right information. That means that everything you're doing is actually really easy. And like, just to go on the programming bit for a second more, like just because you do a little bit of it doesn't mean that you need to go hardcore. It might just be like, okay, great, I know how to do a loop, so I can just quickly loop through things really quick. That could be it, but it could be a little trick that saves you a lot of time. But over time, maybe you're like, well, now I need to make it into a function so I can make it, apply to anything rather than like this one thing. And then later you learn another trick. And then, maybe 10 years later, you're like, okay, now I know a lot of little tricks. Let me just kind of throw them all together and do something bigger with it, more ambitious, and it doesn't mean you need to go hardcore and, get into all this different stuff.
Yeah, no, I learned that the hard way, like when I started learning scripting.
That's awesome, man. And so I guess like you went to Expression and what was it like when your first gig, was that actually at Priest? Sorry,
Yes.
Priest?
Yeah, so I had mini gigs here and there when I graduated, but honestly, I wasn't really going through the school for work. And the reason is that is because I don't know, I don't like to sound high up about myself. If you know me, I'm a very humble person, but I felt like I had more connections than the school had during that time. Like I knew more people in the industry than they had connections. So I felt like weren't really gonna help me get a good uh, you know that uh, that foot in front of the door.
Yep.
And so what I ended up doing is I just kept working on my demo reel for about a couple of months after graduation to try to get a job and um, talking closely with my classmates and seeing what they were doing. I wasn't even asking them, "Have you landed a job? Get me one too." I was just saying, you
Yep.
know, how are you doing? What are you guys up to? Let's hang out and stuff like that. I ended up to the point where I needed money, because I needed a job. So I actually ended up taking a Verizon wireless job at first, but at the same time knowing that I would continue working on my demo reel,
Hmm.
and that's when our buddy, Jason Funk, who's been like, I kid you not, he's probably him and Jesse Capper are the two people who really kickstarted my career. I'm not gonna say that I did it myself. No, I had help. I had a lot of help, and they introduced me to the VFX soup on Priest, and because we were rock climbing, and that's when I started getting to know him. Not even asking for a job, I just started to get to know him, talk to him every time we went to go rock climbing, and
Hmm.
then from there on out, he said, "Yeah, we're gonna bring you on. Just give us a couple of weeks to put on the offer, and you'll come on board." So, you know, I came on as a wrangler, not as a rigger, because they didn't need a rigger because Jesse was already there. But
Yep.
I didn't really care. I was like, you know what, whatever gets me the foot in the door, I'll learn the rest later once I get the chance to prove myself. So, yeah. So like I even started right in the area that I wanted to, but at least, I started with a great team and I ended up getting, I think it was, if you remember, I think it was like 4 shots of cloth work
Yeah,
in
was that like
Priest.
the train shot where they're jumping up in the air or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
even
remember
then,
that.
like, I can't really take a lot of credit. Yeah, I did it, but I had a lot of help from um,
Funk was helping out a little bit, wasn't he?
Funk was helping out a lot, and like it was honestly success is for some people maybe success is done by themselves, but for me, I will be very happy to say that I did it because I had really really good friends, that
Hmm.
really really close friends who I consider like family, and yeah. So instead of just wrangling, I was given the opportunity to do cloth work, and it was my first time doing cloth work, but I didn't say no. I said, okay, sure, I'll learn,
Yep.
and I think I don't know if you were there, but in that meeting, but the first cloth work that I did, and I showed it in dailies, and the VFX soup actually said to me, "Yeah, this sucks." Yeah, like
That was Janov, right?
no, that was Janoff, but you know what? He said that sucks. Let's unsuck it. Like I
Hmm.
think those were the first words that, like the first shot and the first dailies I've ever had. So that really stuck with me. But I knew I didn't take it personally. Like unfortunately, what a lot of people would actually do, they'll take it personally. But for me, I knew it already. I know the truth. I'm not gonna lie to myself. But the great thing is that after that, he came over and he actually sat down with me and we fixed it. Or
Yep.
he helped me learn it and we fixed it. So
Yep.
it was a really good, really how can I say this? A really good intro to what the industry is going to be like.
Yeah. Well, I'll just jump in to say that like I think it's better anyway not to have people bullshit you and like
Hmm.
Geno's awesome guy and that's the thing is he's never gonna turn around and be like what the fuck is going on. In general it's just you want people who can say like look this isn't good, fix it, and better yet, let me guide you if there's someone who can do that, rather than it being like either yeah this is great like I had one supervisor when I was growing up that he'd always be like, "Oh, that's really interesting," and I'd have to call him out on it. I'd always have to call that supervisor out and say, "Whenever you say it's interesting, you're saying it looks like shit," and he's like, "No, I'm not," and I have to be like, "You are. Just fucking tell me what you don't like about it, so I can make it good," and having to kind of like extract that out of them,
Hmm.
is not like they're not a good supervisor if they're not able to communicate that. Whereas, someone saying this isn't good is not them trying to say, this is fucking terrible, whatever it is. It's more they're doing their job. And like, you don't want to work anywhere where someone needs to hug you just to tell you, that like, hold you and be like, it's going to be okay, but this isn't quite there yet. Like change direction. Um, and again, actually, the book I'm reading with Ed Catmull, that was actually a good one of the key points so far has always been about candor, which is, initially it was like, trying to say to someone, I'm going to be honest with you is actually a lot more offensive than just saying, I'm going to be candid, and to say that we need to fix this or this isn't working. And no one's going to get their feelings hurt. It's part of the job. No one goes in and starts to do something and expects, version 1 approved.
Yeah,
Know. So, no, it's good. I mean, and General's a great soup. Like, he's awesome to work with.
He was the best. And, I thanked him a lot for it. And he was that older brother that just gave you, like, crap all the time, but he did it because he cared, and I really thanked him a lot for that. And
I love you. I'm just gonna say we love busting your balls.
I know that's pretty much the whole thing, and I will tell you right now that kind of has carried me through every studio that I've been with. But I mean, it's just kind of a way. I don't take it personally because I know it's just because people care, and
yeah.
For me, and also that's another thing is that every time I go back to school to give help. And if anyone from my, like alumni network or school, like tries to ask me for help, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna give you the God honest truth because that's how I learned too. I'm not gonna, tippy toe around you. If I tell you something that's not good, it's because I feel like it's not good, but it doesn't mean that your work is bad. Just fix it.
Yeah, no, it's part of the process. Like I said, you can't go in expecting things to get like, finished right away. It's part of the process, and that's why also I hate people who are like roll their eyes like, oh, I've got to make changes. It's like, that's the process. You change it until it's amazing, and as you do that, that's where you learn and you grow. Mm-hmm. And the more interaction you get with supervisors, the more I think it's going to make you better, because that's where you can start to see how they see things. And otherwise, like, you're not going to be able to improve and grow, as you move through. So that's good, man. And I really kind of liked the approval process there. I always found that at least on Priest, like, I really enjoyed it because it was one of the first times back on the box in years. I spent about 3 years just souping and just producing, and I hadn't, like, until I went to ILM, that was like one of my first times back on the box, and then I went to Priest. And so actually I remember Janov coming to me like really kind of worried. Like, I just remember him saying like, Alan, are you happy? Like, are you cool with this? And I was like, dude, I'm doing 3D. I'm not going to meetings, and I was in the end I was managing, like, lightly managing the effects team a bit, but for the most part it's just like my responsibilities are my shots. Like, this is fucking awesome. So I had a blast in that show, and it's just kind of cool to mesh with a bunch of people, and him and everyone on that project was just fun, cool people. So
I mean, that was kind of nice too. That group was amazing. I will tell you that that I felt a little. I don't know. I guess I would feel like a little left out because that office that I was like in that corner office with no one. But I mean, I wasn't taking it to heart. I kept telling to myself in that room, I'm like, it's like, what? Don't worry, you'll be out there soon. It's just the like foot in the door process that you have to go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was a good learning process too, and the everyone that was on that team now are just doing amazing things out there in the world. So, and those were some great connections to have too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the cool thing, is the more you stay in contact with everyone, you see where they go, and like then suddenly, even like a decade later, you'll end up in a room with all these people who you grew up with, and it's like, fuck, look how far we've come. So yeah, it's great, man. Can we talk about this, because when you were wrangling there about the incident where the alarm went off or whatever, just because I find it so fucking hilarious.
Sure, yeah. No, I have no shame in that. I found it funny too. Yeah, so it was really weird because I was wrangling because I was on the, I guess you would call it the night shift or the swing shift. I don't know.
You were render wrangling. So as in like managing, just for anyone who doesn't know, like managing all the render jobs, making sure that they go through, and all that
pretty
stuff.
Much the description is watching paint dry and making sure it dries correctly.
It's a good way to get started, though. I mean,
Oh no, it's the best career decision I've ever made. If I was anyone else to say, oh, this is not a rigging job, I'm not going to take it. No, I took it because I want experience no matter what it is. But yeah, and it's like it was at 3 a.m. and I was wrapping up and I was writing my reports, and then all of a sudden the alarm goes off, and I'm like, okay. And then I remember them telling me how to turn it off. So when I tried to do it from the top, it wouldn't stop. And then I honestly did not know what to do. Like I kept walking around. I even went outside to see what was going on. But then when I went back upstairs, I think I had to go in one of the rooms in order to talk to one of the PAs, or I forget who it was, but they told me how to turn it off. But then I told them, yeah, I just did that. But then they said, oh, then it's probably the alarm downstairs. And then so when I went downstairs, I didn't see anything, but the door was open. And then they said, "Oh, you might want to run upstairs." And then I was like, "Why? I'm already outside." And all of a sudden, while I'm checking outside, I see that a window was open into the studio. So I think that's how the alarm was triggered. So that means someone kind of broke into our studio, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I think someone, I think someone broke into the studio." And next thing you know, while I was saying that, I could see the cop cars coming up with like canine units, and I was like, I told the people, I was like, "Yeah, someone's in there," but they had all their guns pointing at me, thinking that I was the one intruding on the property. So, and this was at 3 in the morning, and I'm like, "Oh God, okay, this is how it's gonna go." And then so they patted me all on the back and just asked me, and I was like, "Yeah, I work here." I had to show them my ID, and I handed the phone over to say, to the, I think it was the PA, and they said, "Yeah, he works here. Don't worry." And apparently someone drunk snuck into the
Yeah,
studio,
yeah,
and because he worked in the same building but a different
yeah. One that
room.
crashed on the couch or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And he forgot his key, so I guess he figured, okay, if I don't have a key, I'm just gonna force my way inside of it. But yeah, that was an interesting night. I have to admit.
I think everyone felt bad for you after that. It's like, yeah, you don't really want to get guns pointed at you just when you're doing your job. But
Yeah, and it
yeah,
sucked too because I didn't go home until later that morning because it was like I think they released me around like 6 in the morning,
yeah,
and when I got home there was still traffic, Bay Area traffic, of course. And then by the time I got home, I still had to get up and go back to work like about a couple of hours later,
yeah, yeah.
try to beat traffic. So,
I remember that day.
um, but yeah, funny enough, when I got my second job, that story has already kind of been around the networking system.
Well, that's cool. And well, I was going to mention the marshmallow thing, but we can skip over that. But like, basically, we got you to go out and fetch some food and some scotch or something for us because we were working late, and
Yeah,
you came back with marshmallows, and we're all kind of like, why did you bring us marshmallows? Because I guess it was your first. You kind of figured this would be good kind of snack food for people working late. So we had like these two massive industrial bags of marshmallows, and it's just like, what the hell is this? And yeah, and then like later on, I think I started throwing the marshmallows to the compositing room up above because they had like
yeah,
stairs going up there,
uh-huh,
and I think it was, I forget her name. I was just throwing it like one of the compositors. I forget her name now, but then she started throwing them back down to us, and then I don't know, it just kind of escalated, and then Luba, who was the Ukrainian girl who sat next to
yeah.
me, she ended up bringing up a bag to them, and I was kind of like, what the hell are you doing, you traitor? Because like we had all the bags, and then it was actually a good idea because basically she gave them ammunition, and so the whole entire studio was just throwing marshmallows at each
There's a
other.
marshmallow war.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember at the premiere, I didn't get to go because I was stuck in LA. But I think they premiered at Pixar, so that could have been your chance to go to Pixar. But they actually mentioned that brought up the whole entire Marshmallow War. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it actually made it out to the.
Actually, I have a friend who kind of works there in the Flame Studios, I think.
Mhm.
And he said that that story is still circling around that area.
Oh, you mean at Spy?
That's why, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was hanging out with Kirsten, who's now an editor. You could have followed in her footsteps, becoming an editor down in LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, like she still talks to a few of those guys, but I guess they're kind of out of VFX and just more doing the TV commercials these days.
hmm Yeah, yeah. I still talk to
Hmm.
Todd over there. So
That's cool. So what did you actually do after you did Priest and you kind of got your foot in the door, but like what did you do after that? Like when was the first time you actually went from like let's say rigging into from wrangling into rigging?
okay, yeah. So that's I'll make that kind of a long story short. So after Priest, I kept working on my demo reel. Luckily, I got a few claw shots, and I added that to my demo reel. And that was during a time when it was SIGGRAPH. And then again, I'm not going to take credit for this, but Jesse was being contacted by Disney's oh my God, IMD, Image
Yeah.
Movers Digital, and in Novato for a wrangling position. But I think Jesse kind of had, I think he had better offers, or he had another offer or something like that. He turned it down, but he was very nice and grateful enough to hand them my information. So the moment that he handed them my information, they called me up. I met them up at SIGGRAPH, and then I ended up taking that job. And you know, again, I didn't take it because I knew that the studio was closing either way. But I said, you know what, I don't care. I'm gonna just go in to get some experience and get to know people.
Yeah.
And then from there, I ended up doing some wrangling for I think 5 months, and then I got to know some amazing people over there. A lot of them who are now at ILM, and I got to learn more coding at that studio. So yeah, so I did a wrangling over there, and then I ended up finishing around November of 2010, I want to say, and Christmas is coming up, so and usually they don't really hire a bunch of people during the holiday seasons because it's winding down the year.
Yeah.
But I ended up throwing my demo reel at a bunch of other studios, and now with Spy and IMD on my resume, I was starting to get a lot more hits. So, and this is the story that a lot of people had told me that they liked, but it was very stressful for me during the time. Is that I got a call from Leica during the time because they were working on paranormal.
Yeah.
Paranormal.
They're
Yeah,
in Portland, right?
yeah, exactly. And but I was applying. I was originally applying for a rigging position, but I decided to apply for the wrangling position instead. And apparently they passed on my resume, but then when they realized I had some wrangling experience, they called me up. At the same time, when they called me up, I got a call from PDI, PDI Dreamworks, up in Redwood City, and they also called me up for an interview as well. So all in one week, on a Monday, I had a phone interview with Leica with I think some VFX soup and prod soup. And then on Wednesday, on the way to a PDI interview, I had a phone interview with I think the comp supervisor
Mm-hmm.
of Leica. And then after I ended that call, I went straight into the PDI interview. And then on Friday, I got an offer from Leica to come up. And to me, I would have, if PDI wasn't in the picture, I would have taken the Leica job, like hands down.
Right.
But since I wanted to stay in the Bay Area, I wanted to be closer to my family. I told them, I was like, is there any way you guys can wait? And I have a potential offer here closer to home. I want to say yes to you guys, but I just need to see out all of my options. And they were really nice about it. They were like, yeah, just let us know. And they kind of, unfortunately, as bad as I feel about this, I kind of strung them along for a while.
Yeah.
So
You want that safety relationship in case the better one doesn't work out.
exactly. So quite honestly, I think I would have done. Looking back at it, I think I would have probably been better off going to Oregon because they not only were going to let me wrangle, but they told me, hey, we know you do some rigging. We can give you some rigging work as well. So you can kind of slowly transition to that. While as PDI, it's a much, much bigger company. You have to kind of fight through, to get to where you want to be.
Mm.
But long story short, they PDI finally gave me the offer while Leica was trying to throw all these incentives for me to come down. Like,
We'll
I
give
guess,
you a
like,
tour of Pixar. Come along.
yeah. No, they're like, we're gonna give you like extra money or bonuses or something just to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually what studios will do to try to convince you to come over. And I was so tempted to say yes after they were saying all that, but I had to be kind of honest with myself and like, do I really want to go to Oregon and be away from my family? And family means a lot to me. So luckily PDI panned out, and Leica said, don't worry about it. If you know anyone, just throw them our way. And I try to give them some good recommendations. So
Cool.
yeah, that's when I started wrangling at PDI. But I ended up wrangling at PDI for 3 pretty tough years.
Why do you say it's tough?
Because I for me, I felt like I have paid my dues, but knowing me, it's just like you have to be patient, and sometimes patience can be looked at could be either 1 year or even 6 years. You just don't know what the timeline is going to be.
Yep.
But for me, I was getting really frustrated because as much as I love the company and as much as I love my coworkers, I just felt like I wasn't doing much, and that's why I said maybe going to Leica would have been better off because it's a smaller studio. I would have been able to do more, just like how I did on Priest. But at the same time, when I was at PDI, I met a lot of awesome mentors and
Yep.
a support group. Like there's this one animator. Um, uh, his name is Ron Pucciarelli. Really awesome animator. He did a lot of like pretty much the main sequences on Dragons, How to Train Your Dragon 2. And he was every time I would be depressed, he'd always get like a cup of coffee with me and sit in the cafeteria and just talk things out and just say, "Be patient, man. Your time will come. Just keep working at it." And like, if it wasn't for people like him at PDI, I probably would have quit or have done something else because I was literally getting frustrated. And
In what ways were you getting frustrated though?
it's like I was working on my rigging reel, getting into a character TD reel, getting into a character TD position at a big company like let's say Dreamworks or even like ILM or one of the other bigger companies coming from wrangling. It's a really tough road to get up to.
Hmm.
And I was even being told by higher ups that say, hey, we could probably try to get you into the character effects department because going from wrangling to rigging is it's not impossible, but it's very unlikely.
Character effects in those sorts of places, technically, that's still going to feed into character rigging in some way. So I mean,
Exactly.
even if you did that, it would still allow you to kind of move into rigging down the line. I'm sure.
No.
Yeah.
They told me that if I would have taken the character effects position or get into a character effects position, that it would slowly lead to into a rigging role.
Yeah.
And that's why it was more of a like energy boost when they told me that. I'm like, okay, so I'm slowly making some progress, and we'll go from there. And then during that time, I tried to kind of manage my way. I try to work my way into getting a faster option to move up in PDI because I got an offer at Tippett to be a pipeline TA.
Hmm.
Which still would have been a lot of fun because I would have been writing a lot of tools, learning more of the programming side.
Yeah, and
Uh,
definitely learning as
oh
well.
yeah, it would have been an amazing experience, and I still am grateful they called me, and I told PDI, it's like, you know what, I have an offer with Tippett, and is there anything you guys can do, or let me know if I'm in the right progress to be promoted, and they couldn't promise me a position, but they said that I am moving forward with the progress. So I kind of bit my tongue and just said, you know what, I'm gonna stick it out for the long haul. And I unfortunately had to tell Tippett no, even though that really hurt because I was like, it's gonna be a new opportunity, probably normal hours because Wranglers have like this swing shift, night shift, and day shift
Yeah.
rotation. And then one day, one of my coworkers says, "Hey, did you know they're looking for junior riggers here at PDI?" I mean, and then I told him, I was like, "Yeah, but I'm already training for CFX character effects, and I don't want to ruin my chances or anything." But he's like, "You know what? It doesn't hurt to try. Just apply."
Hmm.
So ever since that day, and that guy named Andrew Martin, who's now at ILM, I thank him the most because if it wasn't for him telling me about that position, I wouldn't have gotten my job offer.
Let me just jump in and just kind of comment about that. And like, I completely agree, and that's the biggest thing is most people kind of overlook that. Like, I don't want to try, or I don't think it's going to be worth my while. And the thing is that what's the most you're going to lose is like what 20 minutes of your time or an hour of meeting someone. Like at the same time, like throwing your hat in a circle, you're making a connection, and at this you're essentially creating opportunities. Like you got to I hate using sport metaphors, but like play the game to win or be in it to win it. Like
Mm.
without doing that, you wouldn't make that connection, and you don't know what could happen.
Well,
So.
it's like when you're at the gym, you make that last rep, but you can do it.
Hmm.
And it's just like you just gotta tell yourself, you know what, just take a deep breath, relax, and just pull through it. And again, it was nothing but really like a lot of support people that pulled me through all that because I was at unfortunately, I will say this, I was at a dark stage of my life that I didn't want to be because I'm always, Mr. Positive, Mr. Enthusiastic, and wanting to hang out, but it was really beating me in a toll. Not to say that the job was a bad job. No, the job was great, and it's
You're
there were
ambitious. You just want to move quicker, and yeah,
exactly, yeah, and that's what something that I had to learn on myself that it just takes time. It just
it
takes a lot
does.
of time, and because I honestly felt like I should be in a ring role. I should have been in a ring role sooner, but maybe that's not what it was meant to be during that time, and again, being patient really, really like I was on the verge of tears the moment that I they said they were going to make me a job offer as a character TD because it was just so much to go through, and even
Mhm.
my parents were like super proud, and they were already worried about my health because of all the late night hours I had to work.
Yep,
So yeah, and like I was on the verge of tears when they gave me that offer, and it was
that's
like
cool.
that was well worth the wait. That was well worth the suffering. That was well worth everything. So it feels better when you well to me it I feel like it feels better when you've earned something.
Yep, absolutely. I think everyone who's been doing this for a long time kind of feels the same way. That, like, first of all, I'm just gonna say it's so common, and I definitely saw this in you when I knew, like, back then, that yeah, I could see that you were very hungry to be like, I want to be the at the top at the very beginning. Like, I say that in a good way. It's just basically like everyone initially starting out wants to fast forward. They just want to hit that
Hmm.
fast forward button to be like, okay, now I've made it. And I think that there are some people who kind of get, I will say, lucky in the beginning, where they just manage to jump into, like, I knew one guy who managed to become head of 3D within his first year because literally everyone, like, quit, and he's kind of got fast tracked up there by management because they didn't really know. And the thing is that the people who actually put in the hard yards, like I always say that, you got to do your time in the trenches, and later it's going to make you, well, like, way more worth it because you've gone through the whipping, you've learned all those lessons from mistakes, and you've put in your time, and it's also going to make you a lot more respected. There's just so much that you benefit from doing it, even though we all want to jump ahead. And I think it's just so valuable to do that. And so even though we all kind of go through that, where we deal with either failure or we deal with that angst of, like, wanting to jump to being like, okay, I made it. It's so worth it. Going through that brutal times, that the hazing period of the industry, because later on you can look back and be like, fuck yeah, it was hard, but I made it through when other people didn't, and all the lessons I learned along the way are what makes me good today.
Oh yeah, it's just like I guess you would relate to it like say I guess managing money. If you lose it, I mean, if you work through the hard way, like for me, like not getting paid enough and trying to managing that way. Now, getting the money that I get now. It's like now I know how to control it. It's just because you've been
Yep.
through the thin and the deep. And but I mean, what people didn't realize, at least my friends didn't realize, is that I had every rejection letter that I've gotten from the beginning of college or expression to now. I still have every rejection letter that I've ever gotten plastered, and it was posted all over my desk because I use that as, and this
Hmm.
is what I tell everyone when I go talk to someone. I'm just like, going into DreamWorks, it took me just to get into DreamWorks, it took me 9 rejection letters,
Hmm.
and then to get into character TD, it took me 3 rejection letters. But you never know that first rejection letter. If I literally took that to heart, I probably wouldn't be where I am today.
Yep.
I took every rejection letter and it's like, all right, the only way I can go is go up.
Hmm.
And I submitted the second one. It's like, okay, I needed to figure out what I need to do, to make it even better. And then so on and so forth. And then by the time when I finally applied, people at PDI already knew who I was because I kept applying and I kept applying. And it's I always tell people, don't let your first rejection letter get to you. You never know that maybe the fifth, sixth, or even the 11th rejection letter you'll get. You just don't know that next one might be an offer. And that's the mentality I kind of went on when I was trying to find a job before PDI. I was just like, you know what, I don't care if you guys tell me I'm not good enough now. I'm gonna ask someone in there who knows what I need to fix, and then I'm gonna reapply again. And
That's
that's exactly what I did.
That's great, man. And you've had a lot of those lessons where, I've known many people who've been like, okay, well, I'm not going to accept a job until it's like the perfect one for me, when they're first starting out. And so they wait and wait and wait while other people's careers shoot up because they were willing to, start out at the bottom and where they could get in and work their way up. And with you, you're the same deal. It's like, I'm not going to turn my nose on a wrangling job. I'm going to take that because it's going to get me in. There's going to be positive things that come with it, and so along the way, like all these sorts of things, like if someone turns you away, that just means to try harder. If someone says, your cloth kind of sucks right now, let's unsuck it, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be like, okay, well, this isn't for me. All these things that I kind of feel like it is a bit of a hazing process in a way, because if you're not willing to put in the hard work in the beginning in an area that you're not enjoying, then like it kind of says a lot about you, about the kind of work that you're willing to do. It's like, well, someone gives you a logo job, you're gonna be like, I'm too good for that, or whatever. In the same way, if someone tells you to revise your work, you're gonna be like, I don't do revisions. These are all things that over time, the people who have that mindset are going to be the ones who eventually kind of get weeded out of the industry. Whereas the people who are like, okay, I'm getting paid. Like one of the most valuable things I ever learned, when I was starting out was there's this guy, Scott Tansley in Sydney. And I told this to him a few years ago when I caught up with him. And it was just such a valuable thing when he told me, like, as long as they have the money, I have the time. And it kind of made me think about things very differently, where it's like, look, you're being paid to do this. Like someone's paying you to do a job, and you go do the job. You don't selectively say, you know what, I don't feel like doing this part, so give it to someone else, And so over time, like all these things that you're doing are going to make you a stronger person. And by you saying, yeah, I'll jump in there and I'll do whatever it takes to get me in there, by you getting rejected, initially, which we all go through, those are the things that when you do actually get the acceptance, it's going to make it even more bittersweet, because you get to finally be able to say, fuck yeah, like, I stuck with it and this is my reward.
Oh no, and you would think that I would celebrate like crazy. The only thing I did was
you went to Subway and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, exactly. Get a sandwich. No, I celebrated with my family. I just had a nice dinner, and I don't know, I was still over the moon that this is actually happening, especially getting a job at a rigger at DreamWorks, because I don't know if you know anyone else, but rigging at DreamWorks is pretty complicated because we have a lot of proprietary tools, but that's the challenge that I want to take. And yeah, it was it's something that I will never forget. And even to this day, like I will never forget the times that I learned the hard way about cloth sim. So, and because of that, not only did I get a job as a character TD, but the moment I got there, they soon realized that I was able to do other things. So, at one point on a movie, which is called Boss Baby, that will be released like maybe in the next year, I became a hair specialist. I actually became a character TD / CFX artist for a movie, because they knew that I did some sim work. They asked me, it's like, how comfortable are you? I'm like, I told them, I was like, you know what, I'm okay. I'm not really that great, but I'm more than happy to learn and to kind of do the job. I didn't say no. And what that ended up leading up to is that them paying me to learn Houdini and to learn the pipeline. And I always wanted to learn Houdini, and then actually having my work paying me to learn a program that I've always wanted to learn was just amazing. And now I have a different mindset of how things work with another program. So, and then I was able to do hair sim and styling for that movie. And then after that, I went back to rigging. So it's just like, now they see that I can do more than just rigging. I can do pipeline stuff. I can do hair stuff. I can do rigging stuff. And you'll start soon realize that all this stuff that you went through the hard way, they will actually be the ones that those little things, like, you don't know how to wrangle, but you know how to wrangle. You don't know how to sim, now you know how to sim. Those will actually come up to where now companies are going to want to keep you because you know all that information.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you're investing yourself and other people are investing you, and the more you do that, the more they're going to want to bank on you, as well as everyone else, because you're building your knowledge base.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it was all the stuff that I went through. I'm nothing but grateful and humbled by it, and especially everyone that kind of supported me throughout the way. So it wasn't an easy task, and a lot of people think that oh, this, like when I do talks, and when I go talk to students and they see, oh, you're from DreamWorks. Some people are still nervous to talk to me. I'm like, just come up and talk. I'm just like you. I suffered, and maybe
You're
you'll
gonna
suffer,
suffer as
maybe you
well.
won't. Yeah, maybe you'll suffer or maybe you won't, but we are all gonna go through the same thing together.
Yep, that's good. And just going back to IMD for a second, Image Movers Digital, that was actually like, one thing that you did there, which I thought was really good, is even though like basically they were in a situation where they were going to start closing down pretty soon, and like even going there, it can actually be a good thing. It's like, okay, well, at least I know there's a expiration date on it, but if anything, I'm going to get paid, I'm going to get experience and all these other things. And it also means like if you know that there's a set amount of time, then if anything, it means that you can start looking for the next gig and use that as momentum. Like, hey, I'm currently here, which means I'm hireable. Pre-selection basically, and so other places will want to hire you. But the best thing is that when you go there, if you know that that place is going to close down or whatever the situation that might be similar to that is, it means that there's going to be plenty of people flooding out of there. So if you go in there and you make a good impression, lots of other people are going to be going to lots of other studios. So they're able to say, hey, you know what? Like, I heard that they're looking for someone, in this department. Why don't you come along too? So if anything, it's kind of like a good way to kind of follow the exit flow of people to other places too. So,
Oh yeah, and yeah, and I believe Maggie, who was at Spy Post, ended up
I
at
actually
IMD as well.
I want to get Maggie on here sometime because she's in NVIDIA up in Seattle at the moment,
Mhm.
but she's insane. Like we both love rum so much, and we're always kind of nerded out about that stuff. But like she's someone who, basically is really cool, really chill, can probably out-talk you about any subject when it comes to food or alcohol or anything that you wouldn't expect, cigars probably. But then, it turns out I think she went to MIT, I forget. I think it's MIT, and then on top of that, she's worked at Pixar, she worked at ILM on Star Wars and all these other projects. She's freaking insane. Like, yeah, it just blows my mind. But yeah, sorry, what were you saying about her?
Oh no, I was gonna say that she actually worked at IMD as well,
Yeah.
and after IMD, she worked at my favorite company, which is 343 Industries, the Microsoft company that made Halo.
Hmm.
And since me being a big Halo fanatic, she was giving me all these tips, and she was actually, I think, trying to help me get a rigging job over there too. And even then, she knew me from Spy, and she knew like my determination, just like how you said, like and my motivation to get work. And she was still trying to help me, get my foot in the door in places. And yeah, she was like a really, really awesome person. And just like how you're saying, like I took the job knowing that it was going to be over. I will
Hmm.
admit though, I didn't really think that far ahead. I was like, all right, I knew this is going to expire in November. I should start looking for work. I actually just went along with the ride and try to network with as many people as possible just to get to know them.
Hmm.
And now, they moved on to other great places, and all of them were very happy to like recommend me or try to help me. And I even did that without even asking them because I just wanted to network while I was there.
Yeah, you don't need to go in there with this conscious plan of, okay, I'm gonna, essentially use everyone as a resource. But it's more,
Yeah.
part of the game. Like the more experience you get, you got to think about your career and like your next steps. But you don't need to go in there with some like, sleazy scheme to latch onto people because,
It's sad to know how many people. Well, I knew some people in my school that actually did that, which is very, very. Oh, man, it's like it's so mind-boggling that some people do think that way. I knew someone who I actually invited over to meet up with one of my friends, and at Disney, and he didn't. I invited him over for a vacation because we were just going to go to Disneyland. But then the moment he realized that we were going to Disney Animation,
hmm
he changed his mind. He drove the day that we were going. we were going to the studio. He came that day. He started handing a bunch of people his cover letter and demo reels,
Wow.
and then the next day he left.
Really?
Yeah, and I invited him to hang out with like friends to hang out,
Yeah.
and we went to Disney because even me, I knew the guy that we were going visiting, but even then, I'm not pestering him for a job. I was just wanting to hang out and catch up with him.
Yeah.
And but when he did that, I was in shock. I'm like, this is amazing. It's like we were just here to hang out. Even me, I didn't, and I was looking for work. I don't even go over there and give everyone my demo reel and resume and all that.
Yeah.
And it was very scary. It's and especially that, and the moment that I knew he was going to do that, I actually messaged my friend. I'm like, I just want to let you know, anything happens today, I did not cause this, and this is all on him.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're gonna do that, then you just want to ask permission first, because at least that way, this, as you said, people just want to have a good time. So if you're gonna do something like that, you're more like say, hey, like by the way, like is it possible to drop my stuff off, and if anything, like can you maybe hand it in or whatever,
Hmm.
whatever you're comfortable with. And if you say like, look, I just want to chill, leave it for another time, then respect that. Not be like, okay. And yeah, I think it's kind of funny when you get people like that, but you can see that a mile away. It's pretty transparent.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's cool, man. Like I guess a couple other things we can dive into, but like, what do you think were some of the biggest challenges for you, or what have been some as being a character TD?
Um, as being to get to a character TD or now being a character
Now
TD.
being a character TD.
I guess for me, it's learning the process because again, this is, some people will start off being a rigger at like small studios to learn like sort of pipelines, and see how things work. But for me, I was very ambitious and I decided I want to be a character TD at a bigger studio. So it was very challenging to be placed in an artistic position without really learning that same pipeline from a smaller studio, so I at least knew what I should be doing.
Hmm.
But thankfully, like the character TD team up here or at PDI was just super supportive. It's no it's a team that it feels like you're just part of a family. It's not like coworkers. Like I go into work, I say hi to everyone, and it's like I knew them, or they're my older brothers and sisters and stuff like that. So every question that I had or learning the pipeline, I would always ask, and they have this, like I think it's a 4 minute rule, 3 or 4 minute rule. Whereas if you can't figure something out in 3 or 4 minutes, you need to ask someone. So learning the pipeline was one of the big things, and then learning the proprietary tools of rigging, because we don't use Maya, we use our internal software for it. But then it was a lot of fun learning all that, and I had some amazing like people to learn off of, people that have been at ILM, Weta, Sony, a lot of people from Sony apparently, and people that I actually looked up to when, because some people from Sony made a video of how to make a rigging reel when I was in school, and next thing you know, I'm working with them. So it was really cool to learn off of these incredible, TDs.
Hmm. And so, what do you think were the challenges, though? Like specifically, like were there anything that you kind of went into, like, oh man, like I don't know, like let's say specifically like on projects, what are some of the biggest things that you would face when, or maybe didn't expect to be such
Yeah,
a.
yeah, it's our rigging process is all node based. So uh to rig, because I got thrown into learning how to rig like faces, and funny enough, the first rig that they actually gave me was to re-rig Shrek.
Okay.
And so Shrek was a very challenging character because there's a guy named Dick Walsh, who was pretty much he's been there since '87, so before I was born, and he has so much knowledge that I can't even keep up. It's just amazing to work with him, and like thankfully he was there. He was my mentor to kind of re-rig Shrek, and I had to learn like how the system works, how to get our faces to push certain muscle and fat, and how the controllers would work, and like even just the simplest detail, like how a sniff and dilate control will look in on the character. That was very very challenging because I had to battle the artistic side, but with the technical side. The artistic side, I feel like I had it, but obviously you get better when you get placed in those positions to actually do it for a show or for a commercial or whatever.
Hmm.
And I learned a lot just by being on that character. As far as artistic posing, I would like to say, like getting the right poses and the right shapes. So when your mouth smiles, it smiles like Shrek. If it opens its mouth, it opens like Shrek. So it's learning that. Just like how an animator will pick an actor to kind of use it as reference to try to mimic that type of acting.
Yeah.
It's the same way for rigging. If you want to smile, like you want it to smile, especially with Shrek, which is a legacy character. I have to make sure that I'm making the smile look exactly like how that smile is going to look that looked in Shrek 1 or Shrek 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason that we were re-rigging is because we had a new animation software during that time, so that's why a lot of stuff had to be re-rigged.
Hmm. That's cool, man. And like you were mentioning before about some of the guys there kind of giving advice on how to make a successful rigging reel. Like,
Mhm.
what were some of the big things that they were saying to do?
I've been trying to look for that video, and if I ever find it, I'll send it to you. And the reason I want to find it too is because I want to kind of embarrass those guys over there. But um, they were just talking about how, like, if you like rigging, learn how to script, or if you're a really good face person, show nothing but face rigging. If you're a good body person, show shoulders and clavicle deformation. I guess they were just really trying to say is show your, even if it's for 30 seconds, just show your best work.
Yeah.
It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And I got that video also told me a lot about scripting, and that's why I like that video. And um, in my demo reel, I try to show a lot of body deformation, showing that you can animate with my stuff. But when I submitted my demo reel, I didn't have a lot of face rigging. So, and that's why I told him in the interview, I told him, hey, I know I don't have a lot of face rigging, but I just haven't had the. I need to know where to start, or I need to know the proper way of doing something. And I think that's why I got straight off the bat, assigned to do face rigging, because they're like, all
Hmm.
right, we'll teach them how to do it.
Cool. That's awesome. And that's good too if you can kind of identify the areas that you need to work on more, and especially throwing yourself in the deep end a bit. So,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
focusing on it. That's cool. And like, I think I remember like 5 years ago, I'd mentioned my buddy Carlos Ingiano, and I think you mentioned kind of tracking him down a bit, like, after that. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
he
go ahead.
lives in Texas now, right?
Yeah, he moved to Austin, which, yeah, it's kind of working out well for him. I meant to go visit him. I've got a call scheduled in about an hour and a half with him. I just remembered. So we're just talking about a couple of things. But yeah, like I remember seeing his first ever rigging reel, because when I knew him, he was like fresh in the industry, and like he basically he wanted to do modeling, and that was like his big goal, was modeling and character TD work. And so it's funny because he hated scripting and he never wanted to kind of do that. Yet, funnily enough, that's kind of all he does now is like more coding and pipeline stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I remember seeing his first ever character TD reel, and it was great. Like, it's really cool, and it was kind of a mixture of showing a rig that works, but also the fact that he would show the setup and all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
I think that those sorts of roles, like especially character TD stuff, showing the end result, like just showing animation, it's cool, but it's not really going to show how you're influencing everything. And it's obviously visually it's going to look great, but it's more also to the people going to be reviewing your work are typically the technical ones who want to know like how you're doing things and how you work. So having, like, for him, he just essentially do like these sped up videos of just showing the rigging, just kind of showing it all working, and it mightn't visually be as interesting to watch, but for someone who's gonna be nerding out about that stuff, they're gonna be like, oh great, okay, I see they got little spring controls or jiggles here, and they've got these envelopes working here, and you got the morph targets to fix the fucked up back or the knees and shit like that.
Yeah.
And over time, like, the way he's demonstrating that, I think worked really well just for him to kind of be able to demonstrate what he could do for any company that's going to bring him in. And but yeah, I mean, over time, like, he's kind of had to get more into scripting. He even got into effects a little bit. And I think
Hmm.
going to ILM or something, even though you're a character TD, you're still going to be doing, especially at ILM, you're going to be doing dynamics and a lot of things that somewhere else it might be handled by other people, but at certain bigger studios, that kind of falls into the category of, this is something that's related to the character. these people are going to handle it, and yeah, you're going to kind of need to juggle a lot of different tech in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, he was another. Once he told me to get in contact with him, I actually did, and funny enough, he was the first thing he told me to do is also just learn how to script too. And so I talked to him every now and then, and he's been writing a lot of cool pipeline stuff. So I've been kind of asking him about it. So I learned a lot from him too.
Cool. I'll say hi to him later today if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, man. And I guess like just a couple other things we'll say is like, what were some of your favorite projects to work on, like to date?
So there was there was a project that I was working on with the Shrek character, which it is on YouTube now. It's one of the kind of like the first two or three YouTube on the DreamWorks website on Shrek, like doing some talks. I think I was just more proud that I actually was in hand of doing some of the rigging for the Shrek face. Um, the other thing that I actually really liked that I did was I actually re-rigged Alex the Lion's face for a Penguins commercial.
Nice.
So that was really cool. That actually was broadcasted everywhere, and I was like, over the moon because I actually made something that is now is shown everywhere. But honestly, I would like to say like I helped. I wouldn't say I worked on, but I helped on like 6 or 7 DreamWorks movies, but not as a rigger. So I don't. I take it that I'm proud of it, but I think I guess it won't be as the level of proudness as me having like rigged something in the movie. So the movie that I'm really looking forward to that people are going to see is Trolls, because I actually did a lot of rigging for that character for the characters in there, and I had a lot of ups and downs working on that movie, but in the end, like I learned a lot from it, and I feel like that movie is gonna be there's gonna be a lot of stuff on my demo reel for that one, but I was more proud of myself for getting through my first production film because I was on a different one, but they kind of shelved it for in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
So Trolls for this year will actually be the first movie as a character TD that I will be that I'll have something that I've worked on there.
Cool, man. That's great. And just kind of curious, like, who are some of the big influences for you, like in the industry, that really kind of had a big impact in your career, or people that you just think are, have kind of been pretty inspiring to, follow or, work with?
Yeah, there's so many people. Like again, I wouldn't be where I am, first of all, if it wasn't for my two classmates, Jesse and Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Those, I have to throw out a shout out for them because I wouldn't have gotten my first jobs if it wasn't for them. So, I thank them the most. And I still hang out with Jason a lot, and I still need to catch up with Jesse. But Jason was like an older brother to me. Like when I got my car stolen when I was in college, he would actually literally pick me up from my parents' house, drop me off to school, and then drop me back at home like every day. So cool. Like that's just something that I will never ever forget. And then like to getting into, PDI, there's expression graduates over there actually that helped me. Like one of them was named Brian Webb, who actually introduced me to PDI, and then he introduced me to another guy named Max. And then those guys were the ones that kind of were like a really great support system to get me into PDI. And then when I was going through my downtimes, some people from Character TD that I knew already, one of them was Nico, was always encouraging me, and as well as that animator Ron was always encouraging me. But there's just so many people in my life right now that really inspired me. And I also have to thank you too, because you actually introduced me to Luis and Jaime from your old Blur days.
Luis just messaged me like an hour ago saying like we got to hang out in LA soon. So.
Yeah. I mean, you introduced me to those guys, and now I don't know if you know this, but I actually teach rigging in Spanish for CG Preceptor with Jaime.
Oh, awesome! That's so cool.
Yeah. So, and the cool thing about that is that we're teaching like VFX stuff, but in Spanish, because there isn't a lot of stuff, in our industry that is like taught in Spanish. So I'm very proud to be part of that organization.
Yeah.
I taught my first semester last year, and I went to Mexico, and I got to meet my students. And I got to tell
Guadalajara, or where were you?
Guadalajara, yeah.
Cool.
I got to tell you, man, those students are like they're really, really smart. Like I don't even know why they're listening to me, because they are some extraordinary students, and I'm so blessed to have known them. And I have another one coming up this semester. I think it starts next month. Yeah, well, technically next month is tomorrow or Monday, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's I have another semester going up, so I thank you a lot because now I'm doing something to change the world, like helping other students
Hmm.
even outside of the country. So yeah,
That's
it's
really
just
cool.
there's so many people, man, and again, you have to treat everyone with respect and as equals, and don't try to use people as just like oh, I'm only gonna talk to you because I know you can get me a job. No, I
Yeah.
don't look at people that way. I want to connect with people. I want to befriend everyone, and things will just land in its place. And you just got to be. I always tell this to everyone: is you always have to be hungry, at the same time be grateful and humble.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah, I agree because it's so obvious when people kind of have a hidden agenda, it just doesn't work out. It's
Hmm.
kind of like someone walking into a room like, okay, who are the people I need to meet here?
Yeah, no.
Um, yeah, I went to Guadalajara and back in fuck, when was it? 2008, something like that, and I was speaking at Creanimax. It was a animation event back then, and they were saying to me at the time, I think the event coordinator was Paola. She was saying that like, hey, we're a little bit nervous about like we'll need to get a translator in here to translate for you for your talk, and rather than just having anyone, they wanted someone that kind of knew what I was talking about. So I was in Vancouver at the time, but I was like, okay, cool. I'll organize with Carlos to come along. And so he's like, yeah, that sounds cool. And then when we finally got there, he's like, fuck that, I'm not going to translate for you, So we ended up having just going to, because he ended up giving his own talk as well. So,
Hmm.
um, so yeah, we ended up getting like a random person to kind of do the translating everything, and yeah, but it was just really fun. Like it's such an awesome city as well.
It's
I
beautiful.
went to Mexico City this time last year on my way to Paris. We had like I missed our connecting flight, and that's the only other time I've really had a chance to go to Mexico. But Guadalajara is like beautiful. It's really awesome city.
Oh no, and it's beautiful. It's awesome, and everyone that I talk to have nothing but respect for each other. It's just
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it's the complete opposite here in the States. It's just like everyone's there brought up with respect, and I don't know. I had a really good time when I went there.
Cool, man. No, that's really great, and yeah, it's cool. Like I've got to speak to Jaime. Like I miss Lewis and Jaime. Actually, talking about them occasionally, just because they're they're both so cool people, but they've got this such an interesting dynamic with each other. Where like Lewis is like this really big dude, and he's so friendly, and he's from Spain, like Barcelona,
Hmm.
and he's from Barcelona, yeah. So and then Jaime is such a great guy too, but the two of them kind of bicker like an old couple, and it's just hilarious to watch. But in contrast, like I've hung out with them so many times where the two of them will be just kind of like bickering away, and then Jaime would turn to me and be like completely the opposite, and but then he turn around and be like, "Shut up, Lewis," you know. So I love those guys.
No, they're amazing. Yeah.
I'm gonna pop up to San Fran soon just to kind of say hi to everyone. I was just speaking to a studio up there yesterday actually about some consulting, so might be a good excuse to go up and get some drinks.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, but that's cool. That's really cool. And I guess we'll start to wrap things up. But uh, one thing I was just gonna say, like, you know, you could kind of clarify, I guess, on this a little bit. But my opinion, like, have you done much freelancing with like character rigging work, or has it been mainly just the bigger studios?
I would say like I've done a couple of freelance, some on and off, but not too much. I've done maybe like 3 or 4 freelance character rigs.
Hmm. How many people are at DreamWorks who are in the character rigging department?
So it's crazy. So when we had both Redwood City and LA studio, we used to have I think it was like 70 riggers,
Wow.
which is a lot. And the only reason is because our system is pretty complex. So when we rig something, one person will be the body person and one person will be the
Hmm.
face person. So it's always a team effort there. But now, since unfortunately they closed down the,
Yeah.
the PDI location, now I think we're down to, I want to say 30,
Hmm.
and that's including the soups, 30 or 40, and that's including with the supervisors and leads.
Right.
So half the team, but since we're not making like 3 films a year, I feel like it's a good balance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And yeah, it's more consistent there too because if you're doing a movie like every 2 or 3 years, and you're gonna have to have people around for like whenever rigs break. You're gonna have to have people go in and fix them, and
Mhm.
a lot more maintenance. Like that's why I was kind of curious, just because it is kind of tricky when you're, let's say, a freelancer and you're jumping from job to job, and typically smaller studios, like let's say TV commercials, stuff like that, you're probably gonna have one character TD for the project, for the company, who's doing everything on there. And it's also usually it's not maintenance, it's you come in, you build the rigs, and you taper off. And so I was just kind of curious because it is definitely one of the more challenging areas to get into, where getting consistency, because like if you're a lighter, if you're a regular TD, effects, compositing, whatever, you're usually going to be on for the duration of the project.
Mhm.
Whereas with character TD work, you're just like modeling, you're going to be going in at the very beginning, and then once things get rolling, then you usually taper off. And so there's always going to be that challenge of making sure you're jumping from job to job without there being that drought in between gigs. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for us, it's like we always have like support TD, so just in case if something breaks. But as yeah, for freelancers, you want to make sure that you're communicating well with the director or whoever you're working with, and if they have an animator, it would be even great. So then they can start testing the rig while you're still on the
yeah.
project. So that way, later down the line, like 3 months go down the line, like, oh, this is broken. It's like, well, we have to renegotiate for that. So, but yeah, it's tricky. But usually, for me, I usually have most of my stuff already like scripted, so
Mhm.
I don't really have to do much. But if they want something unique, then that's when I have to,
Yeah.
talk to them about something.
Cool, man. And just to wrap things up, do you have any
Mhm.
advice for students who want to kind of follow in your footsteps?
Well, if you guys want to follow my footsteps, just I would feel like just follow my footsteps, but do it in your own way. I actually went through a very challenging route, and yeah, I would just honestly say that and this is what I tell everyone, it's just like if you really want to do something and you really want to, if your ambition is to work at a big studio like Pixar, DreamWorks, or even a smaller studio, or even like a game company like Riot, which is really hot right now,
Hmm.
um, if
They're a
that's
few
your
blocks from my place, actually.
really,
Yeah,
oh, I'm gonna go visit you now.
it's pretty cool office. I had a tour of the place. It's pretty dope.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to message you about that. But yeah, so if you really want to go for that, go for it. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, you don't have the skills or you don't have the demo reel. And it's like, don't listen to that. Everyone wants to tell you something that they can't do themselves. And to me, that's something that I've learned is that you have to be patient, as what you've heard. I've gone through so much, and I even got through a downside at one point in my life, but just make sure you have that support group and don't ever give up. If there's something you need to learn it because you never know, it might come handy later down the line. You get a rejection letter, don't take it as if you'll never get there. Just take it. All
Put it
right,
up on the wall.
put it up on the wall and say, you know what, the next offer letter is going to be an acceptance letter,
Hmm.
and also just be very, very humble and be grateful, and don't treat everyone as if they're going to be the ones to get you your job. I talk to everyone as if uh, without even acknowledging that they worked in the industry. I just talked to them normally and professionally. I didn't, and even then, I didn't pester them for work. Eventually, when you get to know someone and you become, friends and comfortable with them, eventually that subject will get breached up, and it won't be you; it'll be them that will wanting to help.
Yeah, yeah.
And also don't. And I guess the last thing I would say is don't be those people that like just bring your demo reels all over the place and just start handing them to everyone. Because I've seen a lot of people's,
Don't go to
uh,
Disneyland and.
yeah, exactly. No, I actually just, I know we're wrapping things up, but
No, it's fine.
one of the cover letters that I read to a buddy of mine that wrote to Pixar, I literally said at the intro letter, it says, "Hey, this is your old buddy blank. I'm back again, applying for a job." And then at the bottom it says, you know, thank you for considering me. P.S. If I don't get a job, can I at least get a tour?
Hmm.
Don't ever do that because that will not. I don't know. I felt really bad, and I felt really bad that this person actually sent this cover letter. Be professional, be grateful, be humble. Always just be hungry to learn more, and you'll be fine. And just don't ever give up.
Yep. No, that's a good point. Like I was doing a career intensive with my mentorship students, like the new ones we just got in, and I was talking about that about like I always talk a lot about cover letters, but it's because it's literally the first impression you're going to make, and I hate the expression, but you can only make a first impression once,
Hmm.
and there just the stuff that you mentioned. There's so many underlying things that like cause triggers in people, especially if they don't know you. They're going by what you're introducing to yourself. So
And not only that, you just don't realize that when you send that something like that just to one studio, I bet my money that eventually other HR reps or other studios are going to hear about it too.
sure, and well, just in general too, like saying like, "Hey, this is your old buddy." I could just it kind of gives a bit of indication of the personality, and even saying like, "Hey, I've been rejected." Essentially, that can also kind of show a bit of it's too early in the day for me to be thinking with big words, but resentment, and even if it's not meant to be that way, that's the stuff that gets communicated. And also, even just saying, "Hey, if I can't get this, can I get this?" you know that also is just kind of showing the lower value that you're actually expecting rejection. It kind of shows that you don't have much value for yourself. So even though it might be a joke, I mean, I know one of my friends, he's a really talented VFX supervisor, and like his first way to break in the industry is he kept emailing a certain studio in LA over and over and over, and at one point, which kind of worked for him, which is funny, but it's a one-off, but he basically sent his letter in with his reel, but also with a paper clipped $1 bill, and he said, is this what I gotta fucking do to get a job here? And basically, it's like pay you. And he was saying it's a joking way. And the thing is that this guy is one of the driest sense of humor people I've ever met. But it actually kind of it worked in a way that wasn't to do with anything to do with that. It was to do with his work was finally at that right point.
Hmm.
But even when we're on Priest, I remember there was a day where who's the other guy who used to teach an expression? He was the CG soup on Priest, Lucas or
Oh,
something.
uh,
Uh,
uh, I know who you're talking about. No, he didn't teach. He was a student.
okay, I thought well he's teaching somewhere. Maybe he's teaching AI or Artist Institute's AI. Yeah, maybe he's teaching there, but he is the CG soup, like quite a guy. I think it's Lucas something, or I feel bad for not remembering, but nice dude. But I just remember on Priest there was one person who um, one day I was looking around the room and like Janov, him, and a few people were all giving each other weird looks. And later that day I was having a beer with Janov and we're chatting, and he's like, "Oh man, like you wouldn't believe what happened today." And basically someone had come in for a job interview and he basically had gotten the job. Like they were ready to give him the gig, and then he sent these personal written letters to everyone who had interviewed him, which honestly, like I think doing a follow up is really actually a really good thing because it'll cement you in there. It'll also make them remember you over everyone else, and you can also kind of add more to it. There's a
Hmm.
lot of good things you can do from sending a quick like, "Hey, it was really great to meet you," blah 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 blah. Thanks, But what he had done is he'd kind of researched everyone extensively and written really personal stuff about everyone. And I guess one like you can Google this, like Mike Janov worked because a lot of those guys came from the orphanage back in the
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
and so the orphanage worked on Terrazone and whatever it was, the Rodriguez and Tarantino film, like the Grindhouse back to back
Hmm.
thing, and I guess at one point they had to do one of the soldiers gets his dick cut off or something like that, or shot off or something,
Hmm.
and so Genov had done like an interview for some 3D website or whatever, and they talked about the CG penis that he had done. And the thing is that okay, that's kind of funny, or whatever, but a bit crass but funny. But this guy had then written like I was really amazed by the work you'd done on that shot and went into kind of great detail about it. And it's just but that was just Genov's letter. I don't even know what he wrote to the other people, but
Yeah.
basically it's one of those times when someone had gotten the job and they had literally worked their way out of it. And it all comes down to like that communication. You really want to make sure that you're essentially controlling the situation at that point. You're influencing whether or not you get more money or you don't get a job or whatever the situation is going to be. So you got to be careful about that stuff, but it also can work in your favor if you know what you're doing.
Hmm. No,
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, dude, this has been great. So like, do you have any last things to say or anything?
No, just keep at it, and I guess the only thing I can say is just don't give up. If that's what you want to do, just do it.
Cool, man. That's great. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. More episodes coming up. And like I said, a couple of really cool announcements I'm really excited about. I still want to do some Periscope sessions. It's kind of funny, like basically December is where things just went so nuts for me. And I just haven't had time to actually commit to a lot of things that I've really been anxious to start doing. So a couple of cool announcements I will have soon is I want to start doing the real reviews that I was doing a little bit, and they were a huge success. It was really cool to get to interact live with everyone and do that. And I also want to be doing some career intensives as well. So I'm going to be announcing those pretty soon. Industry drinks will be back on, lots and lots of stuff, but I also want to start doing more periscopes as well, because I think it's just going to be really fun to get that interaction. With the mentorship I've been doing, last Thursday we did 2 private career intensives, and both of them ended up going for about 3 or 4. I think it was actually 4 hours, and it was huge, but it was just so fulfilling to actually get to do that. And there's a lot of really cool information we're sharing in there, including stuff that even this morning with a few friends I was talking about, like let's say that you've gotten to a point where you've kind of hit your cap on earning with freelance, like when you actually hit your cap basically. So that way, if you think that you're worth a certain amount more than people are willing to pay, how to work around that. So you're not demanding like ridiculous amounts of money, but you're actually getting a lot more money, but doing it the right way, how to kind of renegotiate around those boundaries. There's a lot of cool stuff that we got into. And so I'd like to actually do a few public ones that are, free ones that we'll be doing. So there's lots of really cool stuff that I just want to kind of line up. I'm in the middle of finally rebuilding my website. I've got a developer working with me on that at the moment, which I know is kind of boring news to hear, but it's one of those things that I'm really excited about, because I want to build a good home for myself to start putting out lots and lots of free content. If you're part of the Inside List, this week I actually started firing out a lot of additional free videos specifically on Maya, doing destruction and effects, stuff like that, which has been kind of cool as well. But yeah, this year for me, I'm just really excited because I'm going to be launching a lot of cool free content and just doing a lot of stuff that I've been really anxious to get going, and I'm really excited about it. So I am sure I'm going to be announcing lots and lots of stuff over the coming weeks. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. And one thing I'd love to ask as a favor is that if you find this podcast to be helpful, insightful, something that's just going to kill some time in between work and everything else, then I'd love for you to share it around, or just, let other people spread the word. And leave a review. That would mean the world to me. For me, it's one of those things that I'm trying to keep consistent with. Occasionally I drop the ball on that, but it's a lot of work to do, but I'm really enjoying it. I find it really fulfilling, and it blows my mind. Like I went to iTunes the other day in the What's Hot section in the business area, and I was blown away. I'm actually in the top 100 for that, and I'm so grateful, and I got to say thank you for that, for everyone who's been listening. I'm still weirded out by that. I would never imagine that, out of 42 million podcasts, that this would ever come close to that. So again, thank you everyone for listening, and all the cool email and comments I get. It's just freaking awesome. So I will do my best to never let you down and keep bringing out cool episodes. So again, thank you.